Hi everyone, this is Matt here from the eBusiness Institute, where we teach beginners how to buy and sell content websites. And so if you're looking for a way to make passive income online, today's interview is going to be perfect for you, because I'm really excited to have on board today Michael Bereslavsky he's the CEO and founder of Domain Magnate. Now, what's really exciting about what Michael does is he not only buys and sells websites, but he does it through a fund. And so it means you can invest with him if you wanted to get into investing passively into websites. Michael's going to talk to us today about what he does at Domain Magnates there, but also you've got the option as well, if you're building or buying websites, to sell your website possibly through someone like Michael. So Michael, thanks so much for coming on board today with us.
Hi, Matt. Nice intro. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really good to have you being able to chat to our community, because as you and I have been talking behind the scenes, here in Australia, we've got a really amazing community of people out there buying and building websites, and particularly now with the way the marketplace is going, building websites. And you were one of the key people that I wanted to talk to, because obviously one of the big changes in the marketplace now is funds like yours, little micro private equity funds that can buy up websites and manage a portfolio of websites for people. And I'd love to cover that. But also what I want to look at in this interview, Michael, is your background as well, because I think your personal story is going to be very inspirational for our listeners, because let's jump straight into it. When did you start online?
Yeah, sure. So back in 2004, I was 19 and I was a student at the university in Israel.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about buying or building sites at the time, but I had a plan. I was gonna go become a software engineer, and I was just looking to make some money online.
Yeah.
And I was rejected from all the different companies that hired students at the time. I had about 20 interviews lined up as a student, as a second-year student at like Intel, Microsoft, IBM, Apple, all the software companies we had in Israel at the time. And they all rejected me, and it turned out I was not very good at writing code. And that's an important part for being a software engineer. So I kind of started looking at what are some other options to make money, and somehow I stumbled upon this idea of making money online. And so I ended up spending all the money I had, which was probably like a couple $1,000 to my name at the time. And I ended up spending all that on different courses that promised to teach me how to make money online.
Yep.
And none of that actually worked. So I had to learn it all the hard way by trying and building some sites, until eventually I figured out some ways to earn money by pretty much trying everything. And after about a year or so, I started making some first money.
Yeah.
And then after about a couple years after starting, I was already making enough money that I considered to change my career path, basically.
Wow. So you did well. And in those days when you first started online, what sort of websites were you building up or working on? Like, did you do e-commerce, or was it content sites?
Yeah, it was all content sites, content affiliate sites, and also monetized through Google AdSense.
Yep, same as us.
At the time it was completely different. There was no competition. And Google and SEO was very easy. All I had to do was build up some websites, add some content, and just a link between all my websites, like cross-link them all, and that's it. And they started getting quite a bit of traffic right away. Obviously, it's very different now.
You and you're well known in our industry with Domain Magnate and what you do, like buying and selling websites at a high level. Like, you're buying multi-million-dollar websites now. Over that journey, what was the next transition point for you? So obviously you got to the point where you decide you're making enough money so that you basically could quit your traditional career, do this full time. What made you change somewhere into more managing people's money and helping people buy websites?
Yeah, good question. So initially, I first had to learn all the different skills around building sites, building and earning money and monetizing and so on. And the next step was to see how I can reinvest the money I was earning. So I started buying sites and then growing them. And at first I was buying really small sites for just hundreds or thousands of dollars. And gradually as that evolved, I was buying bigger and bigger sites. And then later, sometime around 2018, I think, because I've had many people approaching me and asking if they can invest. And until then, I was just saying, well, thank you. Currently, I don't have any options, but we'll let you know. And then I was just never ever emailing or contacting them again because I forgot about it. But later, what happened, I think that year, 2018, is I had a few deals that were really good, and I just didn't have enough capital to buy them at the time, and I lost them. It was very upsetting when you know that feeling. Then you just have this really perfect deal lined up, and you can buy it really cheap, and you know right away how you're going to grow and improve it, and it just sort of fails the last moment because you don't have enough. You aren't able to get enough capital. And I thought, well, maybe that's time to really start using some investor capital. And I didn't know anything about that. So the first thing I did was went and just Googled how you raise capital, how you get some capital from investors. That wasn't very helpful. And then the next thing I did was ask different friends. And one of those friends was Domain Magnate, the founder of Empire Flippers. So he gave me some good advice.
Awesome.
And a few other people from the industry as well. So that just started with one investor who was interested in buying one website with us. And then he was quite happy with what happened. So he brought in a few more investors, and they bought a few more sites, and then that actually evolved into our first fund, sort of more organically. And then later we launched this buy and manage program where we started buying individual sites for investors. And so in the past 3-4 years with investors, we've experimented with different approaches. And I've learned basically what works better for us and what doesn't. And what I've learned is that it's better to have, it's better to focus on buying sites in this range of mid 6 figures to low 7 figures. And that's the best range to be with little competition and better opportunities, because you have most individual buyers, they don't have enough capital to get that range. So they usually look for sites that are smaller. And most of the bigger investors, bigger buyers like public companies and large funds, they usually go like above that range. So they look for sites that are in like mid 7 figures and so on. So that presents the best opportunity. And then we found that it's better to have a smaller portfolio really. So now what we are doing mainly is doing these group buys, where we raise some funds, and then we go and buy just one business per group buy, per this little entity, one business or potentially two. And that makes it kind of simple and quick with a minimum of regulatory requirements that are needed, and efficient to go quickly buy and then grow a business and sell it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've found a really nice niche spot in the current marketplace, because we've heard that through some of the other brokers that we've interviewed. Like you mentioned Empire Flippers, Justin Cook, the founder of Empire Flippers. He said the same thing to us at one of our events, that one of the sweet spots is 500,000 to 1.5 mil, because that's where the big corporate buyers aren't going at the moment. So you've got a much better opportunity. And like you said, not as many, unless people are doing what you're doing, not everyone's got, $1 million cash lying around to go and buy a website. So any websites around that space is really kind of your sweet spot, isn't it? And I think that's something I want our listeners to understand is, if you don't have $1 million cash, this is where you feel the marketplace, Michael. You're the man to speak to, because you do these group buys. You just get people coming along and say, well, I don't have a mil, but I could put 100,000 in and we can pool our money. You're an experienced person in this space. And then, like you said, the other big thing I noticed that you guys do really well, Domain Magnates are known for, is keeping things simple and quick. You can do deals quick and you can build them up. And you even look for quick exits too, don't you, with these websites?
Yeah, absolutely. And we also try to do most of our deals private to avoid the high brokerage fees these days. So that really allows us to save like the 15% on buying and on selling.
Yep. That's your other specialty, doing private website deals. Now, I'm guessing, here's something, a bit of history, because you and I realized we have very similar history online. We started around the same time. We probably even saw bid against, or not, you couldn't bid. We started on, remember, it was before Flipper. We were on SitePoint, mainly SitePoint forum buying websites. And as I jokingly said to you, we actually bought our first website on eBay, would you believe? I would never recommend that now. But back then you couldn't buy websites anywhere. So one of the other strategies that we use, which I'm sure I'm going to ask you here, it's kind of an underutilized strategy for buying websites, but we did what we call private approach, which is the equivalent of door knocking. We emailed every single website in the niches we're interested in and just see if people wanted to sell. Is that something you guys do to this day? Is that why? Because I think Liz and I, if we were to run a fund, that would be our sweet spot, is doing private deals like you. Is that how you get your private deals?
Yeah, that's certainly part of our strategy. We do send quite a bit of outreach emails, and we've been experimenting that quite a lot the past few years to find out what really works better, because as everyone knows, it's really hard to get a good response rate when you do these kind of emails.
Yep.
So it's important to optimize your templates as much as possible. But I would say most of our best deals actually come from people contacting us. So just people from the industry that I know privately, or people who come to us and looking for a quick sale and just fill out our application instead of going through the whole brokerage process.
Okay. Yeah. So that's why, like for you now, part of your role as CEO of Domain Magnate is to get out and do, interviews like this as well, I guess. You never know who watches these interviews. And even within our audience, I know for a fact there are definitely people with websites in exactly what you're looking for, mid six figures to low seven-figure websites. I think that's a really good sweet spot, and you guys offer a really good opportunity there. One question for you, if you did, I'm just thinking of some specific clients of ours who own websites that are low seven-figure valuations. Say you had someone like that, and do you keep them on as partial owners as well? Do you do deals with them where they can cash out for a certain amount, but they retain some equity in the website?
We've experimented with that before, but I found out that just doesn't seem to work well, because the vast majority of owners, they don't remain interested. If they own 10, 20%, they are just no longer interested in working on the site, in maintaining it, in assisting. So I found that it's better just to have in our agreements, in our structures, we usually have some kind of earn-out. So there are some conditional payments, and that could be like 20% of the purchase price that is spread over maybe 6 months or 12 months or so on. And it's conditioned upon the performance of the site, so that the seller is motivated to assist us, to give us some advice if needed, but they don't need to go and do anything, and they usually don't want to in terms of running the business.
Yeah. So you prefer just outright buy it and run it with your team, And so do you have team on board that you've built up over the years to run these sites?
Yeah, we have a team. We have a team of about 10 people now, and then maybe another 10 or 20 freelancers. And we've experimented with that quite a bit as well over the past few years, trying to find the perfect balance between working with agencies and outsourcing some things to freelancers, and really building and growing our own talent in-house.
Yeah. So you do a blending of the two, so own team plus outsourcing to agencies and things.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the beauties of this business model compared to bricks and mortar world. So that lets you still scale. You can bring on, I know you said you like to keep it focused. You don't do, you found now. So that's an interesting comment too. Over the years, Liz and I have found exactly the same thing. We used to have these massive, big portfolio websites. It's just too much to manage. Like, it all sounds great and everything, but the reality is even just the headspace with that. That's really interesting that, for you, so even with you've basically got a private equity fund, you've brought it down into a narrow portfolio. I noticed, I think on your website says you're up to fund number 3. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So we have, I guess we could call it our third fund.
Yeah.
But technically, to be clear for your listeners, so the group buys we do, they can't technically be called funds because we don't satisfy the SEC requirements for being funds, which is like a lot of regulationary stuff that we would have to do, which is very expensive and really time consuming. We've done that once, and we've learned that it's easier and better to just do this kind of small group buys, which are more like a partnership rather than a fund in a sort of legal sense, but that allows us much easier, much faster management and operation.
And so small group buys, what would be the typical investment? Say someone like myself wants to invest with you. What would be the minimum and what would be a typical kind of investment?
Yeah, so the one we are doing now, the minimum investment was $75,000.
Yeah.
And US dollars, and the maximum was 150,000.
Oh yeah.
And we actually had a maximum because we didn't want to, because it's a small thing. So there is usually 10 people or so, maybe less, and we didn't want any single person to own too much of it, so that it's well distributed.
Okay, so it's literally like a syndicate. It's a group buy. Bring on, say, 10. So your model is group buy. You bring on 10 website investors. Typically, you'll have about $1 million then of funds. Everyone pulls their money together. It's anywhere from 75 to 150 grand. So that's why you're saying, you've got the funds to go out there and buy either around $1 million website.
Yeah, exactly. And we also make sure that we also put some of our own capital in it. And then we would go and buy either 1 or 2 businesses.
Yep. And how much of your own capital are you allowed to disclose that publicly? Like typically, just a rough amount. Yeah,
so in this one, we are putting 5%.
Oh, yeah? Yep. So you put in 5% and then you run it and then so if someone invests into that, do they get a return quarterly or annually, or is it more on the exit? So is it like an angel investment purely on the exit, or do they earn some money throughout it as well?
Yeah, so first of all, we really make a point to be as transparent as possible. And we send quarterly reports and quarterly payouts to all investors, and we really explain everything about the deals we are doing, the businesses we are buying, the strategy, how we grow it all. And also, usually we prefer sort of growth businesses, so we aim to reinvest as much as we can into growing these sites. So we usually tell our investors that initially you might expect lower returns from like the first year or so, but then we usually resell the business after 2 years or so, 2 or 3 years. So it's not a very long-term endeavor. And then as soon as we resell, we distribute all the profits, but also we distribute quarterly payouts, quarterly dividends if we have some profits to distribute at the time, if we haven't reinvested everything.
And what sort of sites are they typically? Like content sites, or do you do e-commerce style sites?
Yeah, it's only content, and sometimes we buy SaaS businesses.
Yeah.
So we have quite a distinct and specific criteria, and it consists of a few different parts. So first of all, the ethical, the legal requirements, that we only want to buy businesses that sort of make the world better. So we don't buy anything that's a little problematic or controversial. We don't buy news websites or anything like that. So we mostly have informational content, informational and affiliate sites. And also we are looking for businesses that primarily get SEO traffic, organic SEO traffic in an industry where there is quite a bit of room for expansion. And we're looking for very low SEO risks. So we don't buy sites that do any kind of aggressive SEO, link building, and sites that are relatively new and high risk. So we prefer sort of solid, stable, longer term projects, which we can then grow aggressively with more content and links.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so content sites would fit really nicely into that criteria for you then. And here's an interesting question for you. What's the smallest websites you would look at in terms of purchase price?
So for this group buys, we usually look at mid six figures as the minimum. So around like 300,000-400,000. But lately we've also started looking at an option of buying really small websites. Like for example, we just bought a website for around $20,000 like half a year ago, just for our private portfolio. And now we've managed to get the revenues up to about $2,500 per month. So we could probably sell it for $100,000 now. Yeah. And what I found is that with these smaller sites, there is actually quite a few. So it's easier to find this kind of opportunities to really grow it right very quickly, because with smaller sites, people are often not as experienced, not as aware of what you can do to monetize the site better, to grow it better. But the challenge is also with the smaller sites, like if you have a team, you probably have quite high expenses, so it might not be as profitable unless it really grows a lot.
So for our beginners listening to this, to Michael here, please take inspiration. You just heard it there. Buying these smaller sites, under $50,000, $20,000, there is an awesome opportunity, because most people that are selling those don't know, haven't optimized them well. And so even someone like Michael, who runs a private equity fund in this, is like still buying those little tiny sites like we teach you, because they're a lot easier to fix up. And you can also then, you just heard Michael, the one that he bought for 20 grand, now you can sell that for $100,000. How long did that take you to get to that level? Was that a year or so?
It was about half a year, but it was mostly just some small monetization optimizations, actually.
Yep.
So what I found is a lot of these websites were just using Google AdSense.
Yep.
And the other networks can really have a big difference. So AdThrive, we found, performs really well, but also Zoic and Mediavine. So it's not uncommon to just have double or triple the revenue after you move to one of those premium networks.
Yeah. People in our community we'd have a lot of people in our community who have websites in that $20,000 to $100,000 valuation range. So if any of them were worth looking at exiting before they sell, say, on a traditional platform like Flipper or Empire Flippers, would it be worth someone like that speaking to you? And what's the advantages of someone selling, say, a website for $50,000 coming to you rather than going to a website broker? Maybe that's a better question. Here's your opportunity to sell yourself to us.
Yeah, so we try to, since we've done hundreds of deals over the past 17 years, we try to make it as easy as possible for sellers. So people can go to domainmagnate.com/sell and just fill out a quick form. And we only ask for the minimum amount of data that we need: the URL, the revenues, and expected price range. And then if it's something that fits our criteria, we would just let them know right away. And maybe give them an offer, ask for a few more details. And if it doesn't, we just tell them right away as well that it doesn't fit. And if they decide to buy it, we can do the deals very quickly in like a few days. So that saves them a lot of time and effort. And the prices we pay are pretty much the same as what they would get from listing with the broker and waiting for a few months and then selling and paying the commissions. So it just simplifies the process a lot.
So it's a simple, quick way to sell your website. I would also add in there too, I've noticed with over the years, and also because of our background in mergers and acquisitions, bricks and mortar businesses as well, confidentiality. A lot of people want to sell their businesses or their online businesses quietly and just sell them off quietly and quickly, I would imagine that, it means they don't have to open up their website to the whole world when they stick them on a traditional website broker's site. I would imagine that would be a good advantage to some people as well.
And what we found is that many sellers actually prefer to sell to us, sometimes even if they have a higher offer from someone else, because they just know that if we make an offer, they know that we are going to honor it, and we make the process easy, and we know what we are doing. And unfortunately, there is also quite a few buyers in the space who are not as experienced, and so sometimes you would have buyers who make offers and then don't follow up or don't have the capital or drag the process out. So the sellers really appreciate having a solid process.
Yeah. And one of the other really interesting services that you offer that I do want to talk about, because we're, bring it back to this idea of, for our members who've got excess cash to invest into websites and say they want to do it passively. So they've got an option here of investing via one of your funds/group buying opportunities. But I notice you also offer a service that you call buy and manage service. Do you want to talk to us about that? Because that might suit people as an alternative to investing passively into websites.
Yeah, so the group buys are a more diversified investment option where you invest along with other people into a website. So you own a smaller chunk of the bigger business, while through buy and manage, people can own sites directly. So they usually come with certain criteria. They want maybe a website in a specific niche, specific industry, specific price range, and so on. And we go and find them a business that fits. We share all our due diligence data, and so they can review and pick a business that they want to buy. And then we buy and manage and grow it for them. The fees are a little bit higher than if you invest via a group buy, and the minimum is also a little bit higher. But the upside is that people get to own the business directly, and they get to learn more to see how it works. And they also have an opportunity to affect, to say on what happens, because through our group buys, we usually don't ask the investors to vote or suggest what we should do. But with the individual purchases, it's up to the investor how they want their business to be managed.
And typically, you mentioned there it's a little bit higher investment. So typically, what sort of money would you need to invest into the buy and manage service?
Yeah, usually it starts around $200,000.
Yeah, 200,000. Okay, yeah, because then it'll be more worthwhile for everyone involved anyway, because you've got to put a team onto it and grow it.
Yeah, we always try to sell directly ourselves to save on commissions. But sometimes we might not be able to do that, so then we might use a broker in it. We also found that sometimes we are actually able to sell sites directly from one of our investors to another. So that makes it very convenient for everyone. Yeah,
so that's a great option. For those of us in our community who are starting out and they're kind of going along on this journey, when you think back over your journey, so you know where they are, they're learning how to build and buy content sites. What would be your advice to them? Like, would you, looking at the marketplace now, what you know, do you have any 3 key tips that you could give to beginners starting out earning money from online businesses?
Yeah, for sure. So the biggest mistake that I see beginners make, the biggest 2 mistakes, I would say. The first, in no particular order. One is that they go and buy a big business before they are ready. So they just go and start looking at all the marketplaces and talking to brokers, and then they find something they like and they buy it. But they don't yet have the experience, the expertise needed to manage, to operate a business, so it often doesn't go well. And the other mistake is they just take too much time looking at deals, reviewing and planning. And I've seen quite a few people who just spent years and years researching deals and looking and then never really buy anything.
Yeah.
So my advice to both of them is start small.
Yeah.
Learn the basics you need and then go and buy a small site for like $1,000, because actually it's not a big difference between a very small business and like $1,000 website and a site that you can buy for $1 million. It's not a huge difference in about what you need to know to operate it. So if you are able to operate the small website successfully, you'll be much, much better at operating a bigger one. So my biggest advice is go buy a smaller business, operate it. Once you feel comfortable, then you can go and buy a bigger one.
Then buy bigger.
And that's also the best way to learn, because you learn by doing.
And I want to say a big thank you, Michael, for sharing that tip, because that's our golden rule number one that we teach at the eBusiness Institute. And we frequently say to people, look, what you do on $1,000 site, exactly what you just said, what you do on $1,000 site to fix it up is virtually the same on $1 million sites, just that there's more zeros involved. And that is so cool to say, everyone, you're hearing it from Michael. This guy's an expert at, does this in the multi-million-dollar level. Please listen to Michael, even if you don't want to listen to Matt. Listen to Michael. He knows what he's talking about. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And one small correction, though, is that once you go like above $1 million, more or less, that changes a bit, because then you are dealing with bigger businesses that have more things involved and employees and so on. But as long as we are talking about like $100 million businesses, they're all very, very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So start out small, guys. And would you say to beginners, what's your preference for a beginner to start on? What sort of sites?
I would say it depends on what kind of skills and expertise they have. Like a default is a content website.
Yeah.
But we found that many people, they might have a lot of skills in logistics from their career, for example. Mm-hmm. Then it makes sense to go and buy a drop shipping business or an e-commerce business. Or we found that some people are really good at coding and programming. They work in tech. So maybe it's better for them to go and buy a SaaS business or a software related business.
Yeah. For the whole, what we found is content sites are they're so simple, and they're low risk compared to an e-commerce. If someone's a beginner and they want to get into an e-commerce site, there's a lot more moving parts there. I guess drop shipping's a nice in between as well. But we've found in our community, content sites are just, and obviously I'm biased because we used to buy and sell manufacturing businesses, and I don't like businesses that involve physical inventory. I just love content sites. And one of the other things that I should mention that you do, and I'm presuming you're going to be a legend at doing this too, is you do specialized website due diligence services, don't you? I saw that on your website there.
Yeah, we offer that as a side service to all existing clients, but we don't do that very often. We also offer a concierge buying service for our bigger clients that are looking for deals, generally like around $1 million and up, and then we go and find them some great deals in the private markets.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, yeah, so people can come to you for that. So, wow, Michael, that is just unreal. I'm so glad you came on today. It's really good to hear about what you guys do. I think you've got an awesome business there, helping people buy passively websites. Love to have you back on later on with an update. But thank you so much for coming along today. And if you like this video, make sure you drop some comments below. And if you want to contact Michael and his team at Domain Magnates about any deals or investing into websites passively, what's the best way to reach you, Michael? And we'll put the link below the show notes as well. Where can they reach you guys?
Yeah, you're welcome to email me directly to michael@domainmagnate.com or through facebook.com/domainmagnate, and also tune in to listen our podcast with Domain Magnate Show on YouTube or Apple.
Awesome.
And thanks, Matt. Great to chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. We'll speak to you next time.